gentlemen, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. The decade of the 1950s, or 1951, till now, 2014. You know, what's the comparison from your perspective, sir?
Quite a lot has changed. The activism of the 1960s had a significant civilizing effect on the country. So many things that are fortunately more or less taken for granted today, not settled, but at least recognized to be significant and important, were not even on the agenda at the time.
Or how people shouldn't be afraid to speak Spanish, even if they don't speak it perfectly, because no one speaks it perfectly. Even people from Spain speak with a lisp from the 16th century. So it's like, look, dude, don't be afraid. The only thing you should be afraid of is not trying to learn your culture, to learn things about where you come from. So they asked me to come perform there and then do workshops with the kids. So I would just come by there whenever I had a show in anywhere in Santa Cruz or in Oakland or in San Francisco or something, and I would have something between there, and I would always do somewhere in the middle of California on the way up. So I would do either Fresno or San Luis Obispo, and I would pop up there, and then I would just stop by Watsonville on the way to the Bay. And they treated me like a brother. Like, they treated me like a member of the family. They would cook big-ass meals. And you know what? Even though we didn't have a lot of money, we had a lot of heart. We had a lot of unity. And we did a lot of really good things. I don't want to blow people up, but I'll put it this way, brother. We had people from the north, people wearing red, and people wearing blue in the same goddamn room one time.
Yep.
Because of those things. And maybe that's insignificant to people who don't understand and don't come from that life, but that's a huge deal to people who understand what I'm talking about. To have Sureño, Norteño have a conversation with each other, to declare peace for a moment so that we can have a conversation about what the future of our children could potentially be. Like that I put it this way, someone on either side could probably get in trouble from one of the OGs for having the meeting, but they felt like it was necessary for them to say, hey, listen, can we make sure that this right here, this space is sacred so people don't bang here or people don't hustle here?
And, you know, you hit on an interesting thing. I mean, I wound up going back to my roots with the music. We didn't call it doo-wop at the time. I think that came in the 70s where they called it that. Really, in the early days, it was just rhythm and blues, early rhythm and blues. Oh. And that was my love. And I just, was blessed the fact that I could still sing as I got older. But, when you hear something as a kid, it stays with you for your whole life. And for some reason, this music never went away. It's still popular. I mean, most people, again, not mainstream, but you can go to a town, a city, and sell out a venue of 1,500 people that are crazy for this music. And there's a certain purity to it. There's a certain honesty to it that never went away, and I think that people gravitate to that. They gravitate to a simpler time, and I know when we do play this music, the audience is transported. They're transported back to a simpler time in the world, and when the audience goes there, they kind of give it to us. And so we wind up, as the performers, we wind up going back there as well. And there's something, I don't know, spiritual about it. There's something that transcends the year that we're in. There's something that transcends the moment, and we're sort of united at another time.
1962, Dr. Martin Luther King came to speak at the Oakland Auditorium.
Oh, wow.
7,000 seats. Every seat was filled. I was one of the students. I was one of the people there, and I've never forgotten him. He really, truly inspired me. Because it was hard to get me to go to church. I wouldn't go to church on a Sunday just to hear hell and damnation, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I like this man. This man was talking about other things. His preacher, this is one preacher I really like. And I've never forgotten it. I was just so inspired by this man. And he was giving that speech there, and he was talking about how we got to get these companies around America to stop discriminating against us people of color and hire us people of color and so on. And he categorized them and talked about them. Then he got on the bread companies. That was another category. And I can never forget it. I almost like to imitate him. He says, and we're going to boycott these bread companies too. And we're going to boycott Langendorf Bread and Kilpatrick's Bread Company here in the San Francisco, Oakland Bay Area. And we're going to boycott Wonder Bread. They have Wonder Bread all across the country. And we're going to boycott Wonder Bread so consistently and so profoundly, we want to make Wonder Bread wonder where the money went. The audience. You have to imagine the audience hit the floor. It's standing ovation, 7,000 people. And I'm truly inspired by Dr. Martin Luther King in 1962. I mean, it was just something. You know what
I mean? Joe is one of those guys, again, he brings a lot of insight to, regular people like us,
Well, Joe Rogan is a great man, and he's walked the walk for many, many years.
Yeah.
He's lived life. He's had experience, and he draws on that experience to speak to the world, and that is a very helpful thing to do. There's a need in our society for more people like Joe Rogan.
Definitely. Joe Rogan, absolutely an inspiration. One of the reasons that I sort of had this inspiration to have my own show, and absolutely, it was funny because I heard you gentlemen talking about it on his show, and you were so humble, speaking how you enjoy, connecting with people on Facebook, and Joe saying that, it's awesome that, all these other people started podcasts after hearing his, and it really is this evolutionary thing. And the point I was going to make that is really neat is that people like us that were, around in the 90s, exploring ideas, like I mentioned, we're able to grasp your ideas in a way that are really, there. I understand. It feels like innately what you're saying. It makes so much sense.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think a new form of communication is developing. If you go back not too far, you'll find that communications were dominated by the big media, by the big television stations, by the big radio stations, by big national newspapers, and so on and so forth. And therefore, the messages that were put across could be controlled by a tiny elite. What has happened with the Internet, and it's happening at a growing pace in the last 10 years, has been the complete democratization of information, that we are able to talk to one another, to form communities of ideas, to share ideas and experiences, to learn from one another in a very direct way without the big media telling us what to think or what we must know. And I think this phenomenon of the podcast, of direct communication, of small podcasts starting up and sending out their message is a really good thing. And we're in the process of forging, creating, designing, if you like, a new world. And a new way of doing things. It's like when you put a piece of metal into the forge and heat it up and it melts, and then you have to beat it into shape. That's what's happening now. We're beating into shape a new way for people in society to communicate with one another. And the old way of doing things is a completely broken and failed model. It is not going to be appropriate to the world that we're all going to be living in the years to come. But at the moment, there's a feeling of a lot of chaos and insecurity and anxiety and doubt, because we are in the process of making something new, and we don't know yet what that new thing is exactly going to be. All that we do know is that it needs to be made.
When did you decide that you wanted to write this book? Because this book had to have taken quite a bit of time to compile all of that research and to put it so eloquently together. When did it all really take place for you in your life that you decided you wanted to write this book?
Well, I did not decide I wanted to write that book. I probably never would have thought of writing such a book because I would have thought it was a crazy idea to be able to do it. But I was invited. I was asked to write it by Beacon Press. They had published Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States in 1980.
Great book.
And it's a great book, and Howard was a friend of mine. So when they had decided to do this series called Revisioning American History, they talked to him about it, get some ideas, and he suggested that they ask me to write the Indigenous Peoples volume. And so one day I get a phone call and asked if I would do this. And I said, oh, absolutely. This is, of course, this is easy. I can knock that off in a year. That was in 2007.
People that you've played with. From Scott McKenzie to the Mamas and the Papas, to John Sebastian, the Love and Spoonful. What was it like? Being one of these people. Like, do you feel?
It's just like being you, Nick, and it's just like being every person that's listening to this program right now. We are who we are. We live in the moment. It's just life is life, reality is reality, and you just take it as it comes. And I didn't set out to be a singer or a performer or world famous or anything. I just took each moment as it came, and I had fun with it. I love to have fun. In fact, my teachers one of the reasons my teachers wouldn't leave me in my classroom is because I made everybody laugh. And she used to say, Barry, they're not laughing with you, they're laughing at you. I said, I don't care why they're laughing, and I love to laugh. They can laugh at me if they want to and think I'm stupid. I don't care. I don't care what they think. It's none of my business what people think of me. I just live in the moment and enjoy each moment, try to see the humor in it, and see the humor in myself. I'm 78 years old. Everything is heading south on my
you're
frame.
Good. You're just starting, Barry. You're just starting.
I got out of the shower the other day and caught a glimpse of myself in the full-length mirror we have in the doorway there, and it looked like an old wax Santa Claus left out on a hot summer day. Everything is just drooping, big time.
Funny question, and I'll narrow it down to a couple follow-ups. But what do you think this is all about, man? Like, what is this thing, man? This thing they call life and reality. What is this thing, brother?
Oh man, it's the first thing I could say is personally, I'm extremely happy to be going through it. I'm very thankful to even have a life to where I can question what it's all about. It's a rough road, and there's a lot of adversity and a lot of ups and downs. But I wouldn't rather not have it. I appreciate it so much. I think what it is for different people is different. For me personally, I think we're all just trying to figure it out ourselves, and there's no other person like you or like me. There's no other person like anybody else. Everybody has their own journey, and I personally think everybody has their own, their own get down on what it is to them. For me personally, I try to spread. To me, this is a very daunting world. There's a lot of horrible shit. There's a lot of there's a low moral bar on a lot of levels, and I just can't believe how treacherous, like, just generally people, human beings are, you know. But in the midst of all of that, like, the human beings just provide some of the most beautiful moments and the most inspiring moments for me, you know. And for my life, what I try to do is, no matter what, I mean, I try to spread as much positivity and as much love as I possibly can, and it's actually like, I'm just like that. It ain't like cheesy or nothing, because in a negative situation, I could be a very horrible person, because I'm just so valiant against messing up my positivity. You know, like,
you're passionate.
I'm very passionate. I've always been like that, and you know, the question keeps going, like, what is it all about for me? Until I find out what it is, what I'm going to do is, any opportunity I have to put some positivity into a situation, I will. And when I meet people, I'm pleasant with them until they take that away. If they're not pleasant, I'm like, oh, I'm wasting my time here. But what I do is just always, constantly, no matter what, remember to be thankful for the good things and not let the bad things bring me down, and spread positivity. And that has been working for me, because it feels good when people like are looking forward to you being around, or when you hear people talk about you, they're like, oh, that's like the coolest dude or whatever. He made you cool. And it's one thing when you just meet somebody and they're like a cool person, but when you continuously meet people over years and years and they're still cool, like, I love meeting people like that. You know, that somebody I met 10 years ago that's like, oh man, you really are just like a good person, because you were exactly like that the last however many times I've seen you over the past decade.
In case he fell down or something, we could make sure that, you know, because that was a long walk. Suddenly, whomp, and then I was like, oh my God, he's collapsing.
Oh no!
He had scooped down to pick up a piece of paper that was on the sidewalk.
Wow!
I said, wow. A block later, I saw a popsicle stick on the sidewalk. I said, I can't let that go. So I bent down without letting go of his arm, picked it up, and he whispered to me, you may put that in my coat pocket if you wish.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I remember one time I worked at the local 4-H fair, close to where our farm was, and I would play some music, but mostly I was roasting corn, so I got there early to get the corn, get the fire going.
Nice.
And Pete's wife, Toshi, who was a magnificent, great person, said, Grandpa, which she used to call him, or Pops, she would call him, said, he's going to be a real grandfather today. He's just going to go with the grandkids, and he's not going to play. We're just going to go out and come to the fair and just hang out. So I get there at 9 in the morning, and so I said, Pete Seeger's here. Pete Seeger. I said, where is he? They said, he's out with the trash crew. Sure enough, he was out.
That's awesome.
Trash. Then I'm up seeing him, because Pete was sitting there with the grandkids playing with him. Someone said, Mr. Amber, we can't get this horse in the trailer. We know your wife has horses. Can you help us? I said, sure. All we need is a rope, and get a blanket or something. We can blindfold the horse and get the rope behind him and ease him right in. Pete jumped up and said, I'll go too. And he leapt up. Then Tom Chapin came, a great Harry's brother, the great folk singer.
Wow.
Tom Chapin was singing, and then Pete came along, and I guess he had his banjo in the back of his car. We played for about an hour and a half. This was supposed to be his day off. So afterwards, all I said to Toshi, I'm really sorry. She said, no, that's Pete. That's what he loves to do. He loved playing music. He loved being with people. If someone had a problem, he was right there. He really cared about doing for others. And he lived to be 94 years old, and I was with him the night he passed away. Wow. Guy Davis Jr., wonderful, great actor. Ossie Davis was his dad.
Oh,
Rudy
wow.
was his mom. He's a wonderful actor and a wonderful folk singer and blues singer. Fabulous. And a woman named Pat Humphreys, a wonderful songwriter, was there. And I walked into the hospital, and I really didn't. And the door said, no. He said, listen, Grandpa, this has to be a party. So I just played real soft, and then Pat Humphreys played one of her beautiful songs. I played real soft behind her. And then Guy Davis said, we need some levity. And he took a harmonica out and he made up one of those songs. Like they have this famous songs about chasing the fox that the old blues guys used to. He made it up about Pete. And suddenly it was like a big party. And then we looked over and Pete, you could see him tapping his foot.
Wow.
And you could feel his whole spirit, like he was grooving.
I got chills, brother. That's crazy.
So we went home, and I said to the guy who brought me down, I said, I didn't even feel like coming here. I'm sure everyone said, we'll go back tomorrow and do it again. So an hour later, I get home. A half hour later, John Cohn, who had been married to Pete's sister, and a wonderful photographer and singer-songwriter and filmmaker. He's an amazing guy.
Wow.
John Cohn called and said, Pete just died. I said, he couldn't have, man. I was with him an hour and a half ago. They said, no. A half hour after you guys left the hospital, he passed away.
Wow.
So I realized how lucky I was to have known him all that time.
Oh my gosh, Dave, that's crazy. I'm speechless.
But I'll tell you and your listeners something that Theo, but just so nobody gets bummed out by hearing that.
Yeah,
Theo
totally.
Bickel, when he was 85 years old, had this big party at Carnegie Hall. And Theo Bickel's an actor that played Tevye in the Fiddler in the Roof, and there's a bit of movies. And he was a great folk singer earlier on from Israel. Amazing guy. He was having his 85th birthday. Still full of beans, and he bounded out of the stage. He said, ladies and gentlemen, so nice to be at Carnegie Hall. He said, but a lot of people come up now and they say, Theo, you're turning 85. Are you okay? And he says, I tell them, don't worry. He said, in the theater, no one ever dies. We just go on tour.
Yes.
So I think of it now.
That's awesome.
He's just like he's on tour.
For our audience who may not know your relationship with them and what John and Yoko did, I guess, with your album, The Pope Smokes Dope, I believe, which is what they helped you produce. Can you tell us, how you met John and Yoko and, how was it working with them on your album, man?
Okay, go right directly on the pipeline right now. I met John and Yoko through a friend of mine who told me they were in St. Mark's Place in the East Village. They were going shopping at a place called Limbo Shop, a clothes shop. It was on St. Mark's Place, right across the Electric Circus at the time. Between 2nd and 3rd Avenue, right there was right in the main artery of the East Village.
I love that area.
I met him there first, and so I said, hello, John, I'm David Pill from Electric Records. He said, hello, I shook my hand back, and I just nodded. Then later on, Howard Smith from the Village Voice, who was one of the writers that also a very close friend of John and Yoko, who also he was his guide in the village because they'd come here to find out what's going on, so they just moved to New York City. And he was more like a guide and also a good friend of theirs, so he was also a good friend of mine, too, from the village, because I played in the park. And what he did was...
Which park? Washington Square?
Good boy. I played in Washington Square Park at the time, in the West Village. Okay. So with this right now, so what's the name? Howard Smith told John, introduced me to both people, the couple. And now it's a different story. Now I'm being sponsored by, and I get endorsed by a friend of John and Yoko, and they begin to see hear a little more clear. And he invites John and Yoko to see me play. I play every Sunday in Washington Square Park that weekend. So okay, they did. Okay, I get to Washington Square Park all day anyway, with or without them. And lo and behold, in the mid-afternoon, I see John and Yoko and Howard Smith in the back. I said, David, don't patronize them. Don't let everybody know who's there. Get the normal, make them to a normal set. And so with this right now, Johnny Yoko showed me that. They like what I did. I did the post smoke, so I like it so very much. They're singing it. So I gotta meet Howard told me I gotta meet that guy sometime. So later on, another time, Jerry Rubin told John and Yoko they'd like to meet me.
Because Jerry Wood also was a friend of mine who was also working with John Yoko as far as politically a guide and also a consultant while in the village. Remember the war in Vietnam going on, plus the civil rights. Yep. So what happens, he's a good friend of mine for the political stuff I did musically, and in the studio, I'm a street singer. And make a long story short, he invited John Yoko to meet me in my apartment or in the streets, which I think we did in the streets instead. And I started singing on 6th Street, right in there in Fillmore East, the Post-Smoke stuff, and they sing along with me. The cops came to stop it right now. You're very attracted to that. Later on, I wrote a song called "The Battle of New York City," John Lennon, Yoko Ono.
Yes.
And I heard that. The way I told Jerry Rubin. Jerry told John. John invited me. We lived on 105 Bank Street in the West Village, and he lived in a place that used to be John Sebastian drummer, who gave him let him sublease it.
Wow.
So what happens right now? We go there. I sing this song, and they love the song very, very much. Then later on, a week or two later, I went there again just to hang out because we're now becoming friends with them because they like what we're doing and I like what they're doing, and the political movement's starting to move around John's circle. And he said to me, at one point, he said, "Would you like to be on Apple Records?" Well, I said, "Of course, I want to be on Apple, of course." I said, "Are you with me?" I said, "No, I'm with you right now." So we're just right now. The next Monday, a weekend on Monday, we got to the studio, my first studio, and we started recording the album right there. And of course, John and Yoko helped produce most of the album right now. And then they put me on Apple. Then I went to Record Plant after that, and went to Record Plant for a smaller studio. And we finished the album up right now. And the rest, as I say, is history. It became very provocative. So provocative was it. The name, the Post-Smoke Dope, that every single country in the world banned it.
That's crazy.
Japan, Canada, and America, and even within the circles of those three countries, they banned it too. They suppress it right there because they're so afraid, the hierarchy of the church, that they'd rather give away, sell out the music than sell the music itself because of the power of the Pope. And the Christian movement. And that's the way it goes right now. But meanwhile, the show went on anyway. We did it, and to this day, it's still alive. I don't do that anymore because the Pope. I'm not going to become an anti-Pope. I'm not anti-Pope. I did that so many years ago. The record's still out. I don't sing it anymore because Pope Francis. I'm not here to make it into a band dedicated to Pope. It was only entertainment.
Exactly.
Marlon Brando is not a mafia who played the Godfather, and neither am I anti-Pope because of the post-Pope. So the best entertainment at the time just gave shit with people, but right now it's still around as far as an album, but as far as music, I don't do it anymore because I'm not going to become a political anti-Pope protester. That is not my thing. For the same reason why you're not going to have Marlon Brando become anti-police because he played a mafia in The Godfather. We're entertainers and performers, not conformers.
Sports Music Festival, MTV. And I had everybody over here from Tom Green to Tony Hawk to Ashton Kutcher, and like, all these people are here, man. and just to drop a couple names on that.
Right on.
and
That's
I was
sick.
like, man, these are big stars, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember watching Carson Daly talk on the phone, and I was like, man, I think he's talking to Jeff Love Hewitt right now.
That's sick, dude.
I realized that that the kind of play that I was into kind of made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I like to invoke and embody, and had a lot of kind of spiritual experiences when I was a kid that I couldn't explain, and it all led me to this exploration and this inquiry into what is character and what are these experiences we're having and why do we get changed by them. And then if that works, and there's a lot of great studies coming out of Stanford right now in their virtual lab project where they're just discovering that the more and more that you play as your fantasy character or as an alternate character that maybe has skills that you don't possess yet, the door gets kind of flung open and people find the problems, even physical problems like phantom limb syndrome that some of our wounded warriors are coming home with. Work with fantasy and